Okay.
Oh, there we go. We are live.
Wow.
Took me by surprise. Hello, everybody. Hi. I hope you're all well. And welcome to another session for the Author Accelerator throughout August. Wow. I can't believe that's the end of the third week already. It's going so quickly. Well, a big welcome to you if you're here with us live. Thank you so much for joining us, and hello and welcome. And I always say it, and I'm going to say it again. You know, if you have an idea for a non-fiction book, but you're not quite sure how to take it forward, bring your questions and ask Bradley. Think of this as a one-to-one coaching session, and you take advantage of his expertise and his knowledge. If you're watching on the replay, welcome to you too. Likewise, do put your questions in the comments, and I'll either forward them on to Bradley, or later on you'll get a way of contacting him directly, so you can always take your questions straight to him as well. So before we go on any further, I do just want to introduce you to Bradley. So in 2015, Bradley's father unfortunately passed away, and it was as if, he says, for the first time he realized we are mortal and that we've only got this life to live. So unless you're a cat who has 9 lives, it's time to start living. But he's not a cat, he says, and he wasn't living the life he thought he was supposed to live. But since then, he has been writing as if this was the only life he's got. So he has just one simple mantra to answer the question of how often do I want to work on a better self? And that is every single day. And he says it's working. And he's just published his 25th book, even though he's not a cat. So congratulations on your 25th book. And I believe the 26th is coming out soon.
Yeah, next month, September.
Wow, yes. That's a lot of books.
Yeah, it is. And in fact, that's a perfect example to jump into our potential new authors, because I am very much of the opinion of writing shorter books. I would rather have, like right now I have a series of 9-book series that, sure, it could be one big book. But yeah, that's one of the things we can jump into. But for example, that's one of them. That's why I have a lot of books, because also I prefer shorter, because also as a reader, I like reading shorter books. Yeah,
I do want to come back to that actually later on, and kind of just talk about your writing routine, your writing practice, and how you kind of manage it all, because I know that you're busy. But for the purposes of today, so we're kind of talking about how you can write a non-fiction book, whatever subject or area of expertise somebody might have. And I wondered what you thought perhaps was a key thing that someone needed to do if they have an idea that they want to write about. We've kind of mentioned about being specific in the past, and you've sort of told me that you think that's very, very important.
Yeah, very much. I was at I think it was my last live event in London in March, the beginning of March. I think it was the last, pre-corona real people event. And somebody there said something like, okay, you have your idea, and yet you're hesitant or you're scared that it's not going to reach the right people. And he said, what if your book helped you with knee pain? I don't know, back pain. And my sister is sitting right here, and she has back pain. And you're sitting right there, and you know how to help with back pain. Don't you think you'd talk to her and help her? And it was such a simple story, but it really hit home, because there is somebody out there who will benefit from your idea. Mm-hmm. And if your goal is the entire world, or all humans, or all women, or all men, or everybody from age 32 to 47, if you think, yes, I need to reach all of them, and then and only then will I be a success. No, it's niche down so much. And if you think you can help one single person in the world, and actually when I say help, I could say educate or entertain or enlighten. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If you do that for one person, in my opinion, you're good. It's a success. You're done. You can move on to your next book.
So I'm just kind of thinking about that in a kind of in a business world. So, for example, if someone has they have their own company, you know, they're perhaps self-employed, but then they've got a lot of expertise in that area, or they've been working in the same industry for 20 years and they have real knowledge for that area. So rather than, I'm just trying to think of an example. So we kind of thought about an example the other day. You know, if you're an architect and you wanted to help somebody build a house, an example might be, rather than trying to show everybody how to build every house, you might choose, for example, I want to teach experienced builders how to build a bungalow. So it's being very, you know who your audience is, and you know the one thing that you want to teach them.
Yeah.
With that that's that kind of example. And I think, what was the other thing? It's gone out of my head now. You gave another example. I've had
the architect and I mean, should we try to build every type of building, from a doghouse with bricks to a fancy skyscraper, 54 stories, you know, with earthquake, rolling rockers under, you know, craziness, right? Where you needed an 8-year degree just to figure out that part. You know, another thing to think about along those same lines are, I like to talk about the pain pill, like the aspirin, and the vitamin. And if you think, what are your potential readers, or like you said with the business or the architect or any business, what are your clients or your customers or your readers or your potential readers, what's their pain? What hurts? What are they struggling with that is just not fun or difficult or time consuming, or they don't know what to do? So that would be a pain pill. Like a headache, I want an aspirin, I want it now, and I want it to help my headache pretty quickly, right? Whereas like a vitamin, yes, I know I should take vitamins. I should probably take more B12. I know D3 is good, but it's very like, yes, I should also eat broccoli, exercise more, you know, all these things that I should be doing, but I may or may not do. Whereas that headache is not going away until I take my aspirin and solve it. And so if you think in those terms of the pain pill and the vitamin, the vitamin might be more fun to write about, and it might be in your heart. Like, I really want to talk about D3. I really want to talk about vitamins. It's really close to my heart. But your potential reader has a headache. Your potential reader does not care about your D3 and how it's good for you and all that. It's like, I have a headache right now. Help me fix it. And so I see like the pain pill, especially for early writers, go for the pain, fix the pain. Later, you want to talk about D3 and B12? Great. They will love it. But have them learn from you first. Help them solve their pain first. And then you can get into the more fun stuff.
Oh no, yeah, that's good sense. Yeah, I love that analogy of the painkiller and the vitamin. It makes real sense to me. Yeah. The other thing I remembered what it was that had gone out of my head was you've talked to me about Liz.
Oh, Liz.
And I thought this was a great way of kind of thinking about your reader. If you're at that beginning stage of, okay, I've got something I do want to talk to my audience about and tell them about, but who is my audience? And you have a great way of kind of helping someone visualize that.
Yes.
So tell us about this.
in lots of marketing and lots of industries, they talk about, there's all kinds of names for it, but one is the ICA, the ideal customer avatar. And so who is that ideal reader of your book? And this is, again, we're trying to get away from, no, my book is for everybody. Everybody's going to love it. All humans. And I want to sell billions. That's lovely, but we need to go the opposite direction. And so the more you know your reader, the more everything is easier. It's easier to write your book. It's easier to market your book. It's easier to talk about your book. Because if you think, so you asked me, and I know my ideal reader so well. Her name is Liz. She's 42 years old. She lives in the suburbs. She has a job. She doesn't really like it. Her husband makes enough money, so she doesn't really have to work, but she'd like to work. And she doesn't have this passion in her life. She has it, but it's sort of hidden. And she would like to to share it with the world, but she's kind of scared. I mean, I could go on for 10 minutes about Liz, but I know Liz really well. And Liz doesn't exist, by the way. But she's a mixture of a lot of people I've met, or a lot of my readers, what I've gathered from them. And so I've created this Liz. And Liz for me is who I'm writing for. And so if I have a chapter where I'm doubting, or even an entire book, if I'm doubting, is this a good idea? Well, what would Liz think? Would Liz benefit from this chapter? Yes or no? And then I know, the authors and new authors are going to say, but wait a minute, that's just one person. Liz, what are you talking about? You're going to sell your book to one person and you're done. No. But the more you're niched down, the more targeted you are, the more confident you are, the more confident you come across, because you know what you're talking about and you know exactly who you're talking to. And so, of course, people are going to say, oh, well, I'm kind of like Liz. I don't live in the suburbs, but I'm 43. And wow, some of those things he said, well, those really resonate with me. And that, whereas if I said, yeah, I'm writing a book for women, and you're going to say, oh, yeah, all right. So, what else you got? And so the more you can describe that and really, truly make it a person, where do they live? What do they do? How much money do they make? What are their pains? What are their likes and dislikes? And it's fun. It's fun, but it's also can be difficult. But it will save you so much in time and hassle and strategy and marketing and planning and even writing the book.
Because you know who you're writing it for.
Yes, exactly.
I'm just thinking, actually, and anybody who's watching today, and you've got an idea, even just a vague idea of a non-fiction book that you would be interested in writing about or exploring even, pop it in the comments, because it would be lovely to see what kind of subjects or themes or ideas are coming up, and maybe Bradley can help you with that, or just throw some ideas your way that might help you take your subject on to the next level. So please do pop it in the comments. That'd be really interesting.
Well, the funny thing about people's ideas is that I will say yes. I'll say yes, do it. And even if it's the most ridiculous idea that's never going to sell an entire a single book ever. But for me, I'm big on habits. I'm big on flow, on getting into a rhythm of writing. And I want you to write lots of books, right? That's why I choose to write shorter books. Because I worked with a client recently, and she had been struggling with her book for 2 years. And we had one lunch. And I said, tell me about your book. And she tells me about her book. And we hadn't even ordered yet. And I said, I think you should split it up into 4 books. And it was like light bulbs went off in her head, fireworks and lightning and thunder. And it just somehow broke open the dam that was blocking her, true writer's block. It was really blocking her. She was suffering. She was not a happy camper, because this book thing was just always on the tip of her tongue and the front of her mind, and it was frustrating her for years. And I made the mountain smaller. I said, let's write a short first book, like an intro to the 4 topics, and then let's split up your giant idea into 4 smaller ideas. And those are more manageable tasks that you can actually finish and accomplish, and then yay, celebrate. Because if you think about the big scary book, especially the first one, first time authors are terrible about this. And I say that because I was the same way. I had a book in me for 10 years and I didn't write it. And guess how frustrated I was for 10 years. It's not fun. I'll cry. I'll cry. It wasn't fun. So that's why I want to get that first one out.
I can totally, even sort of as a fiction writer, as getting that first one done, that first draft of the first book done, it just changes everything and it sets off a really positive cycle. I just want to take us on for a moment, because we've got the idea now. Someone has a nice idea they think will work. It's something they know about and they really want to share it with someone. Whether it's a painkiller or it's a vitamin. What's the next step for them to take it from that initial kernel of an idea to either moving it forward to perhaps either some chapter titles or some kind of structure, or even through to a first draft? What would be your thoughts
Yeah.
of kind of to go through that process?
So I'm in fiction and nonfiction, there are sort of two big buckets of types of writers, right? There's the pantser and the plotter, or also called the gardener and the architect.
Oh, I've not heard that
And
one.
I like the gardener and the architect one. It's easier to understand because the other one, plotter, is you plot, you make a hierarchical numbered chart or something. And the pantser, that comes from flying by the seat of your pants. But I like the gardener and the architect because the architect I'm going to make a blueprint. I'm going to have it. I'm very organized. I'm going to have structure. I'm going to make a blueprint before I go build my house.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you think about architecture, not a bad idea, right? Blueprints are probably a good thing. Whereas the gardener, and this is kind of a fun gardener is kind of like pull some seeds out of her pocket and say, I wonder what these are. Throws them into the garden and then puts some water on and sees what they turn into, right? I mean, who knows? Maybe if it's the gardener has some thoughts, maybe it's all chapters of the same book, but who knows? It's a bunch of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So that's two ways to go about it. You can do the very structured way and it just depends on your personality.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a very structured person and you can't just have a blank page and just go for it, then get some structure. Then you're probably a type who likes, Roman numeral 1, subscript A, and go crazy. And I highly recommend. It is highly recommended to be an architect in writing. It will usually be easier. However, some of us, me included, I'm much more of a gardener. I'm much more like, give me a blank page. Let me just start writing. I'll see what happens. Okay. And for me, the structure comes later. Mm-hmm. So neither of them is wrong. I think the architecture example is easier because if you already have some ideas, go put them down and organize them. Mm-hmm. And somewhere in between is truly with Post-it notes. Like you go get a Post-it note stack and put your ideas on a single Post-it note. And this doesn't work digitally. I am a total digital guy. I do so much digitally, but there's some exceptions, right? Mm-hmm. Go get real Post-it notes and a real pen, and then put like a single idea, and don't write too small. It's cheating. Just get like a single idea, put it on a Post-it, and go put it on the wall or the floor or table or whatever until you have, I don't know, a whole bunch, until you're sort of out of ideas for that topic. So then you got them. You're looking at your table like, wow, that's a big mess. And then hierarchically organize, and just sort of sort your ideas. Okay. And what's fun about that is often it's sort of the physical and brain to pen to paper transaction there. It makes new ideas, which is really the fun part. Okay. So you're writing about what you think your book is about. And you're like, ooh, wait a minute. Here's a different Post-it. Whoa, what's that? Ooh. Put that on the table. So there's everything from gardening, throwing your ideas out there and maybe starting with a blank page, seeing what happens, kind of the crazy approach. But a lot of people, like I'm in like Gardeners Anonymous. I'm still getting help, my therapy. And then there's the architect, very structured, highly recommended, or something in between with like the Post-it note approach too. You need to get the ideas out of you. Mm-hmm. And they're all in there. We know that, that as a writer, they're all in there. It's just how are we going to get them out, and how are we going to let them out in a safe environment? And by safe, I mean, you don't need to share all your Post-its on the table with everybody, but maybe there's some personal stuff in there, stuff you're like, I'm not sure I'm ready to share that idea. It needs to be a safe place where you are just okay with throwing up all your stuff on the table. That's important because I don't want you to get blocked.
Yes, we'll come back to that in a bit as well, actually. But just from your own experience, do you find, I know you're a gardener rather than an architect, but do you find that you write your books linearly, or do you kind of jump in and out of different chapters, or even start from the back and work your way forwards? Do you find that you have a way that you work best, or does it vary from book to book?
It varies from book to book, but the true gardener that I am, I do it all over the place. And so it's more that I am living, I'm sort of living each book. And I love this. In fact, I kind of wish this upon everyone, because when you're working on a book, everything in your life seems to have a connection with your book for some reason. It's magical. You walk down the street and your book is about, I don't know, purple bicycles. You walk down the street, you're like, that can't be. There's a purple bicycle. And it's fascinating and so fun. And so what often happens is I'm working on a book and just different things come in. And you
Okay.
just got to make sure to get it out again. So it comes in and you got to get it out again. So build a system, whatever works for you. It's weird, but I used to build a lot of websites. I'm really familiar with WordPress. And so I actually use WordPress, which it used to be a blogging tool, right?
Mm.
I use that to make chapters just because I'm familiar with it. It's easy for me. I can make a title, I can make a body, I can do categories, I can even make a series. So whatever works for you to take your notes, to organize your thoughts, to write it. I'm a fast typer, so I like typing. If you want to dictate, how do you organize your stuff? Because you always hear about the notebooks that get lost in the drawer and
Yeah.
never see the light of day. And I always get a little sad about that, because I think all those good ideas are possibly gone forever. So
Yeah,
build
I
a
think
system that you
I,
can
I
that you'll
suspect
actually
though that
use.
those writers might feel that it's better that that particular idea was lost for those early manuscripts.
Yeah, okay, yes, I agree, but I also think you got to get it out, right? So even if you write the worst chapter of all time and it ends up in the drawer, it still got out of you.
Hmm.
I really, for me, writing is truly therapy. And I think that if these ideas and these stories are stuck inside of us, it can be like a disease, like a
Mm.
growing cyst, and
Hmm.
you don't want it to turn bad. And
Hmm.
the way to cure your insides is to let it out.
Yeah. Well, in fact, it's something that you sort of mentioned to me last time we talked was the idea of actively writing the worst book that you can. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, it's very related to curing that, growing tumor. I don't. It's awful mentioning cancer. Both of my parents passed away from cancer, but you know what? Um, it's okay. We can talk about it because cancer is nasty. Cancer is ugly, right? Cancer is it spreads, and so sorry to use this like terrible metaphor, but still, I think that these stories and these ideas and these books that we have inside of us, and I think everybody has them too. It's not just authors or writers or artist people.
Hmm.
We all have these ideas, and if we don't let them out,
Hmm.
then they're going to fester and grow. And if we don't let them out, they're going to get bad. They're going to like rot and get
Hmm.
nasty. So when you mentioned writing the worst book, I think sort of for our health and sanity, we need to let these things out. And you're right. Maybe this idea comes out for this book. It is the worst idea of all time. But in my opinion, we still need to let it out. So
Hmm.
go get it out, let it out. And maybe never show anybody, and that's fine. But I still think we need to get it out of our systems. But then, okay, so maybe we got the worst book out of all time, and you showed a few people, and they all agreed that is the worst idea of all time. That's fine. But still, I think we struggle, and I can say this, I now have written 25 books, but I, of course, also was at a point where I wrote 0 books. And the time from writing, when I wanted to write a book, and my first book was 10 years. Ask me if I want those 10 years back, right? Ask me if I wish I had written the worst book of all time 10 years previous. Of course,
Hmm.
right? And
Hmm.
so that's why we're such perfectionists, and we suffer from analysis paralysis and all of the cliches.
Hmm.
I know we all suffer from them. We all do. I've suffered from them too. I
Yeah.
don't suffer from them anymore. Why not? because I let it out. And is every one of my book ideas fantastic? No way in the world, probably 1 out of 10. But you know what? We've got to get those other 9 bad books out. And then that 10th one comes. And I know people are going to say, can I just like start with that good one? And then, and like I can skip the 9 bad ones. Like you can try, but it's almost a numbers game. We need to get it out there. We need to write the bad books. We're going to learn on the bad books. Like for my clients, the ones who are really stuck, they think I'm joking, but I want them to write. I want you to write me like the worst book you could ever possibly think of. Here's chapter 1. Ready? Blah, 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 blah. Write that like 400 times. I challenge you, and you can't do it. It's terrible. You're like, oh, God, I'll kill myself. And so you'll write something. You'll get something out. And just the writing, just the process of doing it will make you already better.
Mm-hmm. In fact, that leads us on, I think, quite nicely to the idea of if you do have writer's block, quite often the best way is to put whatever bad ideas you have on the page, because just the process of writing it then just frees up your subconscious and gives your brain space for the good ideas to come.
Yes. And there's a funny thing. I actually just today I finished narrating one of my latest books. So I narrate my own audiobooks, which I can highly recommend, especially for nonfiction, because they talk about how you are your brand and your voice is your brand. And when they listen to your audiobook and they hear you on stage or they see you on YouTube, they know, oh, that guy, oh, that voice, oh, I've heard that. So they get used to it. But also, speaking of recording your audiobooks, what it does is that it's like a different part of your brain that is processing the words. When you read and then speak out the words, it's different than just reading and taking in the words. Mm-hmm. And so it's a great editing process as well to see the words, read them out loud, hear your own voice with your own ears, say the words, hear the story, and it will sound different to you. And that paragraph that you thought was not so great, now you see, oh, I know how to make it better because I just heard it through a different medium and I can go change it and improve it. Mm-hmm. But on the note of writer's block, they talk about how nobody has speaker's block, nobody has talker's block. So pretty much everybody has a smartphone. I'm pretty much guaranteed you have some kind of recording function on your phone. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm not talking about fancy dictation things. I'm just talking about a recorder. So you take your phone. So I have writer's block. It's not working. Step away from your computer. Ideally, go outside. Go maybe take a walk. Nature is often great. Like especially no people. Take your phone. Hit record. Speak your chapter. Speak your idea and see how it goes. And we're not talking, we're going to publish this thing on a podcast or anything. Mm-hmm. It's just another way to get it out. Mm-hmm. So speak it. Mm-hmm. And truly, I'm really serious here about hitting record, walking in the woods and saying, okay, chapter 1, architecture for building blocks, architecture for brick houses for dogs. Part 1, whatever. And see, I'm going to mumble and I'm going to stumble, but I'm going to keep walking in the woods. I'm going to say, well, how big are the dogs? Are we talking a 2-story place? Or are we talking 1 story? Are we going to have plumbing in this dog house? And are we going to really cement this thing together? And you'll keep going.
Yes, yeah. And then the ideas will flow, and then there'll be that gem, perhaps that little nugget that you think, that's it. That's
it. I should really be building houses for cats. I've got it all wrong.
Now I'm going to move us on again because I'm just sort of thinking about time. You talked about this idea. So we've got our idea for the book. Our writer has either gone to the garden or they've gone to the architect, and now they've got this book at the end of it all. And you've talked about something you call beyond the book. I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about this idea.
So to continue on the audio world here for a sec, and again, I just recorded my audiobook, right? But if you think about it, people consume media in different ways. Like a book, you read, you have a paperback, or you have an ebook, or an e-reader, an audiobook you listen to, podcast you listen to, a video you watch and listen to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so beyond the book is, especially for nonfiction, how can you take your idea and repurpose it into other media? And so a perfect example would be to go record a chapter. You, with your microphone, record a chapter. And I'm not talking fancy studio, fancy audio stuff, just for kicks. And then you could share that audio, or even just a snippet. Maybe there's a paragraph or two that is just fantastic. Just share a snippet. Here's a real life example. I took a few of my books, and because I have a podcast and I know what I'm doing in podcasts, I took a few of my audiobooks, and because they're already individual files, each chapter is an individual audio file, I then post-dated the 27 chapters of this book as 27 weeks of a podcast. And I didn't charge any money for it or anything. I just wanted exposure for that book, and then it was a podcast. And guess what? One day I got a call, said, hey, I heard your book somewhere, and I really like the topic, and I want to interview you for my conference. I said, oh, great. Okay. How'd you find my book? Which version? They said, yeah, it was weird. It was like a chapter in a podcast episode or something. I'm like,
love it.
Okay, there we go. So, and of course, you could do audio and video, and you can put it on YouTube. But if you think about the different ways people consume media, and then what also resonates with certain people. Some people say, ugh, I don't like audiobooks. I never watch YouTube. Fine. What do they? How do they get their content? Maybe you turn a chapter into a post on LinkedIn. You have a more corporate or business idea. Go take a chapter, go put a powerful chapter on LinkedIn with a link to your book. Or you could do a video if you're a little more daring. You could do a video of yourself, maybe reading a chapter, or acting out a chapter, or maybe even taking a single paragraph or a tiny little idea and making you could do a 1-minute Instagram video of one tiny little piece of something, and that might reach then Instagram people, right? So it's sort of the good news and the bad news is that it's endless opportunities, right?
So would you recommend that people try all of these things, or would that be audience dependent, or perhaps even you as the writer, what you prefer working with, whether you like Instagram or Facebook or podcasts or whatever?
Yeah, I always hear like choose 3. Choose 3 media you like, and don't try to go everywhere for everything, and especially stuff you're not going to do, or it's just painful for you to do. You just don't want to do it. You're never going to do it. You don't like doing it. Don't do it. Do the stuff that works, because the stuff that you like, it'll show through, right? It'll show through if you enjoy like audiobooks. I love doing them. I truly enjoy it. And you can tell, I read them well, of course, my own content, so it's easy for me to read. But like, what works for you? What resonates with your own self? Because that will then resonate also with your readers, or your listeners, or your viewers, or whoever they are. Yeah.
Good thought there.
Speaking of this, I gave a talk on decision making, and how there's the mind and the heart and the gut. And those are sort of your 3 decision-making centers. And if the mind, this is sort of like the financial, administrative, like, well, this makes sense. Yes, we should do that. And then there's the heart. It's just sort of like passionate and your love. And I've always wanted to write a book about building cat houses out of brick. And then there's your gut, who's sort of like a judge, right? He's like, okay, mind, okay, heart, I get it, but look, I'm making a decision, I'm putting my foot down. This is what we're going to do. Okay. So, and that's like where they say gut feeling, right? And so make those decisions, and then so in an ideal world, there's some like agreement with with gut and the heart and the mind. I mean, sometimes like there's just no way, we're just not agreeing here. I don't know what we're going to do. But you can get sort of a 2-to-1, winning vote there, and that usually works. But as far as what media to use, or even what your book topic should be, or your chapter titles should be, go ask your mind, go ask your heart, go ask your gut, and see what happens. And a nice balance is okay too. If the entire book, so a friend of mine is writing a book, and the comment he was getting was, it's too dry, it's too like boring and corporate, and so my thought is, it's too much from the mind. It's too much like, yes, this chapter makes sense administratively and technically, but it's boring as all get out, right? And so find that combination that works, and try to balance it.
Oh, good tip there. Yeah, it's a really good tip. I'm going to move us on again to the next subject. And I did want to talk to you about your writing practice or your writing routine, because I know you do speaking engagements, you do coaching, one-on-one coaching, which we can come back to as well. And you obviously are doing a prolific writer. So how do you structure your day in an ideal world? What would your writing day look like? And how do you try to sort of balance all the different commitments in your life?
Okay, ideal world. That's a fun one. Let's talk about ideal world.
Let's start optimistically.
how close is it to reality? I don't know. But okay, here's my ideal world, and it's going to sound crazy, but I've almost got it down to a science. And in fact, of course, I'll write about this, but I'm to the point where I can create a perfect environment for like new idea creation. It's really neat. And it's okay. Here we go. I'm just going to tell you. It's in you can you can all think it's weird or not, but it's working for me. And so that's actually my point: is what works for you, right? If you know yourself, like me, I'm a total morning person. Yeah, I am. So here's I'll give you my crazy schedule. My current like dreamland glorious scenario is to the day before, like noon or 1 or whatever, I have lunch. Yay. But then I know I'm going to skip dinner, and I'm going to have maybe something really light, maybe an apple, maybe nothing, ideally just more liquid. And so when I've done a lot of intermittent fasting, and the beauty of intermittent fasting is what happens is that your body spends so much energy on digestion, especially if you have a big dinner. A lot of your sleep, your body is working on digesting that food you had for dinner, especially meat. And tougher stuff to digest is going to take longer. You're not going to sleep as well. So benefit of skipping dinner is you need less sleep because your body has less work to do.
Okay.
So, but before you go to sleep, watch some inspirational stuff related to your idea or related to your topic. I don't know, some YouTube videos, or listen to something or whatever's inspirational to you, or maybe some hero of yours in the industry, watch a TED Talk, I don't know. So then, because you have that stuff in your mind, and then, so you need less sleep. So maybe if you normally sleep 8 hours, like for me, it's like the difference between I have dinner, I'm going to sleep 8 hours. I skip dinner, I only need 6 hours.
Okay.
I wake up like without an alarm clock, like bing, I'm up. And my body has not been busy all night working on digesting. So my body's like, let's go. Here we go. Feeling good. It's so weird. It's so weird. So then, if you want the full deal, here we go. Then I wake up and I'm going to start with meditation. So for me, meditation is the pulling in. It's the taking it in. And then after meditation, I'm going to let it out. So letting it out is writing, or lately it's a lot of audio recording or even video recording. So I will even head into the woods at 6:30 if it's light, and I have my little tripod. I put it on a tree branch, and I hit record.
Oh wow! So you do it outside?
Yeah. And I think more clearly outside. Most of my videos are outside, and so this is my little setup, right? So I have a good night's sleep. I wake up 2 hours earlier than normal. I don't do this every day, of course, but 2 hours earlier than normal. Start with a meditation to bring in the clear ideas, and then boom, go write. This is no news. This is no Facebook. This is no watching movies. This is no whatever. It is boom, boom, boom. And then by the time like my kids are up or something, I'm good for the day. I've got an awesome chapter. I've got a whole big idea that came in, and maybe I just wrote some notes about it. So this is my wacko schedule. But my point, my answer to your question is find your own schedule that works for you and get to know yourself, get to know what works. You'll know when are you most creative, when are you the most productive in the day. And some people are night owls, and at midnight they're like, all right, let's go. I'm ready to write. I'm ready to create. I'm ready to produce. For me, I am long asleep. But so learn what works for you and test it. Go write a chapter at first thing in the morning, write a chapter midday, write a chapter in the evening. I mean, if you don't know when is your most efficient and effective time. So figure it out and then stick to it.
Okay.
And put it in your calendar and make it happen.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in scheduling. Yeah, I think that's really important. And so then the kind of business side. So if you're most creative in the morning, you'd kind of do your business side perhaps in the afternoon or the evening?
Yeah, exactly. So, and be strict with yourself. Like I know I'm creative in the morning. If I'm going to try to write a chapter at 4 p.m., yes, I can do it, but it's going to be painful. It's probably not going to be good. I'm going to regret it. I'm going to delay there. And so be good with yourself, right? Allow yourself to say, you know what? I've done my awesome creation this morning. It's 11 a.m. Hey, I'm good. Yeah. Go have a long lunch. Go enjoy. And then from whatever 2 to 5 or whatever your afternoon looks like, or whenever that works, then fine. Then I'm more consuming. Then maybe I'm, watching some help videos on Amazon advertising or marketing stuff, right? Or answering emails or that kind of thing. But the stricter you can be, especially with like social media and especially in the morning with a creation time, you're in your own world. And and that's why I do it so early, because nobody's up. My dog doesn't even want to go out at like 6 a.m.
That's how early it is. Now listen, kind of talking about kind of the non-creative side, the sort of more businessy, admin-y, email-y side of things, you've been working hard, I know, because you've got a couple of events coming up in October and November. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm looking forward to them. Yeah.
So tell us about what's happening in October.
So you know what? This relates very well with getting ideas, finding the good ideas, finding the audience. So one of my books, I interviewed 13 families to look at how the parents were creative with the kids. And interviewing those 13 families, it gave me so many ideas. And it changed my thoughts for some of the book. It completely like annihilated some of the ideas, and I think, oh, apparently those were terrible. And it took others and said, those are great. And so working together with others was really a key to writing a better book, testing the audience immediately, because the audience is giving me the content, right? So this is another one for the nonfiction books, go interview people, go talk with people. So this is exactly what we're doing in October. We're having a little, like we're doing right now, we're having a summit or a conference or whatever you want to call it, where we are talking about creating. And so it's not necessarily just writing, but I have a book called Create. So here's a perfect example of the process from book to online conference to course. So book is called Create. Conference, we're going to have people talking about case studies. We'll have like experts in the field. We'll have stories from people who have done stuff in that topic. And then, which will lead to November, then in November, we'll have an actual workshop to create, to do the thing.
Fantastic.
So the book is about the topic. This one is about create and creating. And then there's the online conference. I mean, if it weren't Corona, it would be in person. I love in-person events. I'm bummed that we can't do it. So we'll go online and we'll have the online conference, and of course, promoting the idea of creating. And then if you're interested, you're, yay, I'd like to create, I'd like to write a nonfiction book. We are going to then in November, we're going to write together as a workshop, as a team, a short nonfiction book in the month of November. And my goal is to have your book ready for publication by Christmas.
Wow. Well, there you go,
So,
guys. My goodness.
Yeah.
So you've very kindly given us, if we're interested in finding out more, going to this web link. So take a screenshot, or I'll put it in the links later as well. But then people can kind of register their interest in knowing more about both of these events. Is that right?
Exactly. Because they're not ready for prime time yet. We're working on them and stuff. And I don't have like beautiful landing pages and all that yet. So just go to this page, and then that will signify you as coming from here. And then we'll get you information about the two events.
Fantastic. Well, I'm already signed up, so I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. Yeah, I'm really intrigued by it. It sounds great.
Oh, great. You know what's fun is also, as a writer, it's such a solitary business usually. You know, writing. I mean, I'm very much on my own. I'm writing away, on my laptop, and I that's fine. I like that sometimes, but I think like having a workshop in November and writing together and having that accountability partner and other people who are in the same boat, and we're gonna get it, and a bit of raw motivation, yay, that it works, it helps, and it should be fun. It should be a fun process.
Oh,
I am big on fun. I want it to be fun.
I've been talking to a number of authors recently, and they've all been mentioning sort of the idea of community and having a community. And that's not always easy to find when you are a writer, because as you say, it's such a solitary business. So something like this is a really great opportunity to start making that community for yourself, and finding like-minded people. Even if you're writing in different genres and about different things, it's still you can find that community there.
Exactly.
I didn't know that you had a podcast. You've kept that quiet. What's the podcast?
Repossible.
Repossible.
Just like the domain there. Yeah.
I shall. I'll find that and put a link as well. Dark horse there.
I am almost like I need to go to like Writers Anonymous and Creators Anonymous. I'm just a machine. I just create. And so
do you write? Do you type? Do you dictate? Do you do a mixture of everything to be that?
I mostly type, but recently so when I was doing dictating for a while, but then because I enjoy public speaking and podcasts and videos and stuff, I sort of skipped the whole make it be text, and instead of dictating where it would turn into text, now it would be a podcast episode or a video.
Okay.
And so some of that content won't necessarily directly word for word be a chapter.
Okay.
But so here's another example of beyond the book. In my recent books, I'll have a chapter on brick house building for cats. I don't know how I got onto that. I need to get off of that. And then I'm going to say in the chapter, I'm going to say, go to brickcathouse.repossible.com in my book. So I'll make a link that will then go to a video of that topic.
Okay.
And the reason I want to do this is because also as a nonfiction author, I want speaking, I want audio, I want to be on podcasts, I want to be on shows. I have my own podcast, I have my own show, whatever. But I want that multimedia exposure. And also, I'm a big believer in some people like reading books, some people like listening, some people like watching. And so I want to connect in the best way that people like it. And it just then, because I think sorry?
I was say finding your audience where they're at.
Yes, exactly. Because I believe that there's like a hierarchy of how we connect with other people, right? Like in person is the biggest connection. Second would be like video. I can see you. We can see each other's facial expressions and stuff, right? Next is audio. And then next is like books, right? And so books, as much of a writer as I am, I think we can have a deeper, stronger connection through other more direct and more dialogue media
Yeah.
than books. And I dare say that as a writer. Of course, I love writing, I love reading, but I think like an audiobook, I
Uh-huh.
can connect with a listener on a deeper level than a print book.
Yeah.
or,
No,
or an ebook.
yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, we're at 50 minutes now, so I am going to call it a day and say thank you so, so much, Bradley. I really appreciate your time and all your information and your expertise and the guidance that you've given people today. So thank you so much. I'm going to remove that. And thank you very much. And thank you to
Yeah.
everybody who joined us this evening. Don't forget, if you're watching the replay, any comments you've got, any questions you have, please do post them. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you all. My pleasure. Bye.